our colleagues in the Northern and Western Regional Assembly and the Interreg Europe Joint Secretariat. We are delighted to welcome you to this webinar for Ireland, dedicated to Call 3 for Interreg Europe project proposals. Just a few points on housekeeping before we get started. As a participant, you are muted and your camera is turned off during the webinar. However, we do welcome your questions. You'll notice at the top of your screen there is a Q&A tab, and this will provide you with the option to ask questions to today's speakers. The Q&A function will be monitored throughout, and we'll approve your questions as they come in. You're welcome to ask questions throughout today's speakers' presentations, and you don't have to wait till the very end, and then we'll pose them to the speakers in the dedicated Q&A section. And I suppose most importantly, we really encourage you to ask questions. We will try to answer as many as possible. However, any that we are not able to answer in terms of, we have a lot to fit in today's agenda. So any that we're not able to cover, we'll collect and we'll address them in a post-event document that we'll share with you after this webinar. If you are happening to be facing any sort of technical problems, such as not being able to hear today's speakers, please let us know in the chat, which my colleague Lorraine is monitoring. So just a quick overview of our agenda for today. As I said, we have a lot to cover in the next hour and 45 minutes. We'll be starting with a short presentation on the key programme features of Interreg Europe, which I will deliver. Then we're going to move to a more detailed presentation from Diane Boulon, who's from the Interreg Europe Joint Secretariat, all on getting you ready and prepped for the third call for proposals, which opened on the 20th of March 2024 and will close on the 7th of June 2024. We'll then welcome Travis O'Doherty from the Northern and Western Regional Assembly, who this event was organised with. Travis is going to give us an overview of the support available from the Irish point of contact to applicants. And then we'll welcome Diane back to give us some advice on support available to applicants from the Joint Secretariat. Then we have a session that I think will be of real interest to attendees, where we're going to welcome Ronan Gingles from Cork City Council and Jose Manuel from ERNACT for a discussion of real-life examples and inspiration from on-the-ground Interreg Europe projects in Ireland. And then we'll finish up, as I said, with a live Q&A. I'll also advise you that this webinar is being recorded, so don't worry if it's a lot of information to take in. We'll send you on a link to rewatch the webinar before the end of the week. And please do feel free to share that link with colleagues or contacts who may not have been able to make it today. I am now going to hand over to the Director of the Southern Regional Assembly and one of the point of contacts for Ireland for Interreg Europe for some opening comments of encouragement and inspiration. So I'll hand the floor over to you now, David. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Anya. And look, everyone's very welcome. Delighted to see the numbers, and I can hear the numbers are increasing. It's clicking away here if I hear all the people joining it. So it's great to see the numbers on the webinar here this morning. Look, as Anya said, in the Southern Regional Assembly, we're one of the points of contact for the Interreg Europe Programme, along with our colleagues in the Northern and Western region. And look, we're really here to help support. We're if you like, the face of the programme on the ground, to help and support project applicants, along with the support that comes from the GS in getting your applications in and getting them across the line. I suppose one of the key jobs we do is the promotion of the programme, so like events like today. But look, we also help in terms of identifying the correct policy instrument support in that area, support in identifying partners and so on. So look, I would encourage you all to reach out and make contact with us as you're working through your project. Also, I suppose and it'll be touched on later on today in the course of the morning, just the tools that the JS offer as well in terms of supporting the project applications. Look, I think from a broad perspective, I think the opportunities and benefits of participating in Interreg Europe projects are wide and really valuable. You know, particularly in trying to deliver on, I suppose, actions or activities that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, but linking in with partners across Europe to get their perspective, maybe identifying areas where they're finding ways around it. So the opportunities through collaboration, through learning, through sharing experience. I think it really adds value in terms of how we deliver and develop our policy on the ground here in Ireland. And look, Irish partners over the years have been very successful, have been involved in very successful projects, not only in previous programme periods, but also in the first two calls in this current programme period. So, you know, the opportunities are there. And look, I suppose it's most likely that this is the final call for this particular programme. The third call is going to be the final open call. So in a sense, it's really the last opportunity to really get in there and get your applications in and to be involved in a project. And look, there are really some good examples of really good projects that have been delivered on the ground through Interreg Europe, and we'll hear about some of those later on today. I know if you haven't been involved in Interreg Europe before, it can look daunting, but there are loads of supports out there, as I said, through reaching out to the point of contact, through the services that the JS offer, but also through your peers, through other organisations and people who have been involved. So again, my call out is to reach out, talk to other organisations who have been involved, talk to ourselves and talk to the JS, and look, get involved. So with that, I'll hand back to Anya.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, David. So I'm actually going to start in with the first presentation. So bear with me now one moment while I get my slides up. So before moving into, I suppose, the particulars and technicalities of Call 3, I'm going to give you a brief 10-minute overview of the Interreg Europe programme. I know from looking at the attendees list that we have a mixed group of attendees with us today. Some of you who may have years of experience in Interreg Europe and other ETC programmes, and some of you who may never have engaged in an EU-funded project before. So we really do hope that there'll be some takeaways for all of you in attendance today. So firstly, just to briefly explain, and I won't go into too much heavy detail on this, but where Interreg Europe programmes, I suppose, link in with cohesion policy. So at its heart, cohesion policy is the EU's strategy to promote and support the economic, social and territorial cohesion of its member states. The policy has played a pivotal role in levelling the playing field among regions, enhancing the quality of life and ensuring balanced development. And Interreg programmes are a vital component to cohesion policy. You'll see there we're operating across 4 strands, so of distinct strands, each with its specific scope and objectives, managing a total of 86 programmes with a total budget of 10 billion euros through the European Regional Development Fund. Strand C, which you see is highlighted, is where Interreg Europe is categorically placed, and Interreg Europe, which is all around sharing solutions for better regional policy, has a budget of 394.5 million for the 2021 to 2027 period. So the Interreg Europe programme, in a nutshell, is essentially a way for European regions to work together to share ideas to solutions to common problems. I often think a way of explaining it, it's like a big team project where regions from different European member states can learn from each other. They might focus on anything from boosting the economy to protecting the environment. And the idea is simply to make regions stronger and better by sharing knowledge and experiences. Policy improvement is a key part of the Interreg Europe programme, and that is just something to emphasise. And this is where regions not only share their experience and ideas, but also use what they've learned to make their own policies better. I always think a good way of explaining it is it's like taking a good idea from a neighbour and then adapting it to improve your own house. So in the context of Interreg Europe, these house improvements are changes to updates or policies that can help a region manage its economy, environment, education, or any other area more effectively. And by learning from the successes and challenges of others, regions can tweak their own policies to work better. So just to simply put it, I suppose Interreg Europe helps policymakers find solutions to the challenges they face in their individual territories. So, policy instruments, you'll hear a number of different kind of terms in Interreg Europe, and one of these is a policy instrument. So, what is a policy instrument? A policy instruments are strategies, programs, laws that have been developed by a public authority, and all local authorities, and I know we have a lot in attendance today, own policy instruments. So, they'd be your development plans, local area plans, local transport plans, climate action plans. And by participating in Interreg Europe, your staff members and stakeholders can increase their knowledge, expertise, and find solutions to the problems you may be facing through participation in interregional learning events and the sharing of good practices between project partners. Investment, I'll just say as well that investment for job and growth programs are also classified as policy instruments. And an example of those would be, say, for example, the European Regional Development Fund regional programs. So, an example of a policy instrument. So, I'll use an example that I'm familiar with. So, the Regional Spatial and Economic Strategy for the Southern Region of Ireland would be an example of a policy instrument, and the Southern Regional Assembly are policy responsible authority for that particular instrument. Just in a nutshell, the RESIS provides a long-term strategic development framework for the future physical, economic, and social development of the Southern region, and the RESIS seeks to achieve balanced regional development and full implementation of the Project Ireland 2040, the National Planning Framework, and each of the regional assemblies has produced a regional spatial and economic strategy. So that's just an example of a particular policy instrument. When talking about policy instruments in Interreg Europe, you'll also hear the term policy responsible authority. A policy responsible authority is essentially the organisation charged with the elaboration and or delivery of a specific policy instrument. Typically, this is a public institution, and its role involves overseeing the development and implementation of strategies, programs, or laws that are intended to improve a particular territorial situation. The authority ensures that the policy instrument achieves its objectives effectively and is aligned with broader strategic goals. So, as I said, in the case of the regional assemblies, it's the individual regional spatial and economic strategies. And then for the local authorities, it's the individual development plans, climate action plans, etc. So, as I said, policy improvement is key in the Interreg Europe programme. So, there are three types of policy improvements that you can make through an Interreg Europe project. So, number one is new projects. So, that's where interregional learnings inspire new types of projects, which is funded through their existing policy instrument, which may include the launch of a new dedicated call for projects. The second one is change in governance. So, this relates to how interregional learning influences the way a policy instrument is managed and implemented. For example, it could be a new framework that's developed, which can support in the delivery of that particular policy instrument. And the third option is a change in the policy instrument. So this can be sometimes one of the more challenging ones, and it's where you're inspired through interregional learnings to change the main features of the policy and or to modify it. And this could include, for example, adding new policy objectives, not possible with all policy instruments, just to say. And just to have an example of a policy improvement, I'll use the example of the Match-Up project, which the Southern Regional Assembly were a partner on. So this project focused on the optimization of the places where people change between transport modes by considering four main types of low carbon means of transport. The overall objective was to embed multimodal mobility strategies into the project partners' policy instruments. The Match-Up project is a very good example, I always think, to show what can be achieved with an Interreg Europe project, particularly from a policy improvement point of view, as there were two policy improvements made to two regional policy instruments, so the Southern, Eastern and Regional Operational Programme and the Regional Spatial and Economic Strategy for the Southern Region. And I suppose quite impressively, one also at national level through the National Sustainable Mobility Policy for Ireland. So the potential of the impact your project has can go beyond the initial policy instruments you may have chosen to influence. through the Southern Regional Assembly created a Type 2 change in governance policy improvement to the RESIS by creating a framework and methodology for local authorities to map their cities and key towns to identify infrastructure improvements required to create 10-minute cities and towns. And this was inspired through an interregional study visit. Then the final policy change, as I said, was made at national level. And this is where the Matchup 10-minute town framework developed by the Southern Regional Assembly through the Matchup project was incorporated into the National Sustainable Mobility Policy for Ireland and led to the availability of national funding for infrastructure improvements required to create 10-minute towns for all local authorities across Ireland. So I think Matchup definitely acts as inspiration of what can be achieved through an Interreg Europe project, not just at local and regional level, but at national level also. The Interreg Europe Programme operates over 6 thematic areas with a cross-cutting priority for capacity building. So they are Smarter Europe, Greener Europe, Connected Europe, Social Europe, Europe Closer to Citizens, and Governance. So as you can see, very broad thematic areas where many different kind of projects can fall under. Each project has to fall under one of these thematic areas. And just to note as well that the programme adheres to a principle of concentration, dedicating 80% of its resources to what's viewed as the most impactful areas of regional development. So in this case, that's smart, green and social projects. So that's just something to keep in mind when you are joining a project or thinking of leading a project, what thematic areas you're looking at going under and seeing where the concentration of the funding is dedicated. So let's look at 2 actions of Interreg Europe. So on one hand, as discussed, we have a series of targeted projects that bring together regions to exchange knowledge and transfer experience on shared development challenges. But then on the other hand, we also have the policy learning platform, which some of you will be familiar with. So this plays a crucial role in amplifying the achievements of those projects that are funded through Interreg Europe. It opens up the programme's benefits to a broader audience, allowing all regions, not just project partners, to tap into a wealth of knowledge and expertise. And this platform is really, I suppose, the linchpin in ensuring that the valuable insights and innovations developed within individual projects have a ripple effect, contributing to regional growth and the achievement of cohesive development goals. The policy learning platform, as I said, it offers a suite of policy learning services that provide regions with access to expertise, people and knowledge. The platform serves as a hub where policymakers and practitioners can seek expert advice. They can connect with the community, engaging with a network of peers through thematic events and webinars, and also find policy solutions. And just to reiterate, you don't have to be involved in an Interreg Europe project to access the services of the policy learning platform. And my colleague Lorraine now is going to just pop a link into the chat to be able to link into the policy learning platform. Finally, I might just spotlight on the policy learning platform's direct policy advice services, which is a critical aspect of the Interreg Europe support services. So they offer peer reviews, so you can deep dive into specific regional policy challenges, matchmaking services, and a policy help desk as well, which acts as a first response to policy queries that you may have. And these services are facilitated by thematic experts and are crucial for regions seeking to refine their policy approaches and implement best practices. And Lorraine is also going to pop a link now into the chat for just direct access to that access to expertise as well. So look, thank you so much for listening to me, and we can address any questions in the dedicated Q&A section. But for now, just as this webinar is dedicated to Call 3, I'm going to pass over to Diane Boulon, who is a policy officer with the Interreg Europe Joint Secretariat in Lille. We're delighted to be joined by Diane, and Diane is now going to talk to you for approximately 30 minutes on the current Interreg Europe third call for project proposals, which is open. So thank you very much, Diane.
Good morning, everybody. As Anya said, I'm Diane. I'm from the JS. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. And it's nice to see that in the audience we have experience partners and regions, but also newcomers. So it's really interesting to have the mix of both. Anya already presented the program and a bit of features, but we thought interesting for you also to dive in the project features so that you have a better idea of what an interregional project is. So we are going to go and see the objective and activities. So an interregional cooperation project is a project in which distinct policy relevant organizations from different European countries work together for 4 years on a shared regional policy issue. As already mentioned by Onya, you have policy instruments. That's the goal. It's to improve them, and in the partnership, at least one region needs to tackle an investment for job and growth goal program. In Interreg Europe projects, we support the exchange of experience activities between partners, also called the interregional learning process. It typically includes seminars, workshops, site visits, peer reviews, and the learning process is based on the identification, analysis, and exchange of policy knowledge and practices from the different project partners included in the project and in the policy field addressed by that project. So as you can see, we've got the good practices, and there is also the mention of pilot action that are possible within our program. Indeed, sometimes these activities of the exchange of experience might not be sufficient to improve the policy addressed. So they can be supplemented by more operational activities based on the learning by doing approach and test something at the regional or local level. So here you can see what is a good practice. It's really the key feature of the core activities. It's the identification of good practices in the different regions in the partnership of projects. They need to be successful, and they might be and hopefully a source of inspiration for other regions participating in the project. And then we've got the pilot action. As already mentioned, it's not the key features of the project. It's more of an add-on activity to the core project activities to help test an initiative at regional level and to improve the policy instrument addressed. This is an important aspect. When we mention that it has to have a clear interregional aspect is that we need a transfer of successful good practices, for example, between regions, or it is an initiative that is jointly developed by the project, and a testing character. So really testing something in your region to see if it's going to be really interesting for your region, if it can be adapted to your region, and if it can improve the policy instrument addressed in the project. So the project activities within an Interreg Europe project are implemented in 2 phases over 4 years. So we've got the core phase that lasts 3 years, where the exchange of experience between partners take place, and during those 3 years, they exchange to improve their policy instrument. And then we have a follow-up year of 1 year. Sorry, the follow-up phase of 1 year that is dedicated to following the effect, the impact of the policy improvement achieved during the core phase, and to monitor any further also policy improvement. So according to the new rationale of the program for the 2021-2027 period, and also based on previous experience, during this period, action plans are no longer needed. Indeed, we've got the 3 first years to improve the policy instrument, and we will have the policy responsible authority on board in the project. You will see this later on in the slides. And for the follow-up phase, there is always some flexibility to each project to define exactly what they need to do to follow up and monitor the improvement achieved during the core phase. Now that we've seen more about the essence of projects, let's get into the eligible applicants. So given that the goal of project is to improve public policies, it is logical that the main target group in Interreg Europe project are public authorities, so ministries, counties, cities, institutions, state office, and etc. But we also have public law bodies that are legal entities established for the public interest and are mostly financed by public funds. And then finally, we also have private non-profit organizations that are also eligible. They help public authority make the public policies in the region, at local level, and sometimes at a bigger level. An important note to take into consideration is that each partner state is responsible for confirming the legal status of the organization located on its territory. So if you have any doubts about the legal status of your organization, please feel free to contact Denise or David, and they might help you confirming the legal status of your organization. And another important note also is that beside the legal status of the organization in Interreg Europe project, we need to see the relevance of your organization in relation to the public policy addressed and to be improved within the project. So your organization has to have the mandate and ability to influence the policy tackle. We will need to see what is the role in the policy making of that policy instrument in that policy. And a requisite for participating in Interreg Europe is to have the policy responsible authority on board of each policy instrument addressed in the project. As you can see on the slide, we will need to have at least 50% of the policy instrument addressed with the policy responsible authority as a partner in the partnership. And for the rest, they could be associated policy authorities or partner. I'm going to explain later on what an associated policy authority is. And also, as you can see on the slide, during Interreg Europe project, we have the creation of a stakeholder group in each region. It is important to involve the relevant local regional institution that knows the regional context, and they will help improve the policy instrument addressed thanks to their knowledge, and also they will help to identify good practices, and they will enrich the exchange of experience within the project. So we really count on those stakeholder group in the exchange of experience. So what is an associated policy authority? It is not a full partner in the project. It is the policy responsible authority that cannot participate as a partner, but needs to be involved in a way so that we can obviously improve the policy instrument addressed. They are officially included in the application form. They don't have a budget. However, the partner that is tackling the policy instrument with the APA, so the Associated Policy Authority, will have a budget to cover the traveling and accommodation cost of the Associated Policy Authority. They will need to provide a declaration for the application stage, and they need to be involved in the exchange of experience and to follow what is happening in the project in order to improve the policy instrument of the region. And because you may know that Interreg Europe was extended to 7 new countries, we created a lighter way of participating for those countries so that they can discover the program and participate in the exchange of experience. But those partners, the discovery partner, will not need to address a policy instrument and will not have a stakeholder group per se. So it's really a lighter way of participating for organizations from the 7 new countries. The 7 new countries, as mentioned in the slide, are Albania, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Moldova, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Serbia, and Ukraine. But those organizations from the 7 new countries can also be full partners. They can tackle policy instruments. So it really depends on the partner that you have in mind and their knowledge and familiarity to Interreg program and Interreg Europe projects. Then, as already mentioned, Interreg Europe is a pan-European program, so we want to see a broad geographical coverage within the project. It allows partners to broaden their experience and to compare practices with those different contexts from all the area covered. So the partnership should go beyond areas formed by a group of geographically proximate countries. We want to see a mix of regions with different level of development to reduce disparities between regions. And as you can see on the slide, we created a new area for the 7 new countries. So now we have 5 areas that have to be taken into consideration while applying for Interreg Europe. And here we decided to include a slide with an example of partnership and stakeholders, because everything that we are mentioning might be a bit abstract to you and mostly for the newcomers. So you can see in this slide that in the first line, you have the policy instrument addressed in each region. So you've got Italy, Sweden, Poland, and France. And then you can see in the other line where it is mentioned partners, the policy responsible authority. So that's the organization that has the mandate, the capacity to influence the policy instrument. And as you can see for the last one, for the French partner, we don't have the policy responsible authority involved as a partner per se, but as an associated policy authority. It is included in the line after PP5. So PP5 is the one involved in the project as a partner for the French region. It's the Business Innovation Center of Caen. And then we have the Regional Council of Normandy that is also included, because we need the policy responsible authority, but not as a partner, and here as an associated policy authority. And then also you have the stakeholder groups for each region that are going to help the exchange of experience and that are going to help the partners identify, analyze this, and exchange the good practices from their region, but also improve the policy instrument. Now that we've seen what the partnership looks like and what kind of applicants are eligible, we're going to dive into the finance side of project. As already mentioned, there are different types of organizations that are eligible to participate in projects, and depending on their legal status, they will receive a related co-financing by Interreg funds. So here is the co-financing rate depending on the legal status of the organization. And as a kind reminder, the legal status can only be confirmed by the partner states where the organization is located. So for public and public equivalent from EU and the 7 new countries, we have an 80% co-financing rate. Then for the private non-profits from the EU and the 7 new countries, we've got a 70%. And then for Norway and Swiss, it's a different aspect. So take into consideration the first two one. And if you have a Norwegian or a Swiss partner, you need to take the two last lines into consideration. Also, for the newcomers, it might not be clear, but the Interreg Europe Programme cannot provide advance payment, which means that each project must be able to advance the funds to pay for all project activities until the approval and payment of the 6-monthly progress report that has to be ended. And as you've seen, since the program is dedicated to policymakers and based on capacity building, most of the expenses will be related to staff cost and traveling for the exchange of experience. And based on past experience, we simplified the financial rule. As you can see, it is a fixed percentage that reflects the involvement of the person in the project. And then based on that fixed percentage, you have the flat rate for office and administration costs and for the travel and accommodation. The fixed percentage is recommended as it is the reporting process. It's less of an administrative burden, and also it implies less human errors. You can see also that we offer a lump sum for the preparation costs of projects and some infrastructure and works could be eligible, but only for pilot actions and justified, of course. So that was the first part that I was going to share with you, and now we're going to dive in the third call of project proposal. So after two successful calls that we launched in 2022 and 2023, we launched the third and potentially the last call of Interreg Europe. We have 12 weeks of duration, and it's going to close midday on 7th of June 2024. We have an envelope of 130 million euros for this call. All topics are covered, all corners of the program are covered, and the decision will be made during the monitoring committee at the end of 2024 after the project has passed the eligibility process and the quality assessment. This is a slide that you already seen in the presentation of Onya. So just to repeat a bit, Interreg Europe covers a wide range of topics. The first one are linked to the cohesion policy, and the last one is a fixed one. So we've got smarter Europe, greener Europe, more connected Europe, more social Europe, closer to citizen Europe, and governance. A concentration principle was decided while preparing the strategy for the 2021-2027 programming period, and since some topics are currently more relevant and urgent for regions in Europe, it was decided that the majority of the budget would be dedicated to smarter Europe, greener Europe, and some issue of the social, and we will dive into those topics just now. So under the smarter Europe topic, we've got different subtopics such as digitization, digital connectivity, also the sustainable growth and competitiveness of SMEs, research and innovation capacities, uptake of advanced technologies, and also skills for smart specialization. Is just a slide mentioning some of the topics that are covered. But if you want to have a more concrete idea, I would recommend to browse our website, where you can see all the projects that were approved under this topic or the other topic, and get a better idea of what they are exactly tackling, what is the thematic, and to see a bit what are the policy instruments tackled in this regard and the exchange of experience. Then we have the Greener Europe, mostly about everything that is on the agenda of the European Commission. So sustainable urban mobility, of course, access to water and sustainable water management, smart energy system, renewable energy, energy efficiency and reduction of greenhouse emissions. And also, not the least, circular and resource efficient economy. And then, as already said, some issue of the social are within the concentration principle. We've got the access to labor market, access to healthcare, and also culture and tourism for economic development, social inclusion, and social innovation. Each time, I don't know if you noticed that the topic has a different color, and you can find this for all projects that are approved so that you have an idea. And then that are not under the concentration principle are some issue of the social, then the more connected Europe and closer to citizen Europe. Here you have the different subtopic. Something I really want to highlight for the closer to citizen Europe topic is that it is a focus on integrated territorial strategy. So it's more of a multi-sectorial approach. And it's not per se tackling citizen initiative directly. And then the last one that is a fixed one is the topic of governance. Indeed, Interreg Europe supports also non-thematic cooperation on challenges related to purely administrative management of regional development policies, for instance, the evaluation and monitoring of those policies. One key aspect of a project that we consider is the innovative character of your project or your proposal. So obviously the concept is relative, because what can be common practice in a region or within an authority in a region could be something really new to another region in Europe. So this is taken into consideration. However, that being said, we need to understand what is the innovative character of the expected result to be achieved by your project. So when you are developing an idea, we recommend you to browse through the project IDs already supported by the program to check if the idea of interest was already covered. And if so, to ensure that the new idea you are offering has an added value compared to past initiative already financed by the program. So it should build up on those project results and go behind it. That's why checking what we have on the website, the project that were approved during the past programming period 2014-2020, and also during the two first call is really important here. Then already mentioned, but Interreg Europe is a pan-European program, and to apply project partnership must cover 4 out of the 5 areas that are mentioned here. And we don't have any Swiss partners, so if we can have a Swiss partner in what project, it would be interesting. But here are the 5 areas that have to be covered to be eligible, of course, and you need to go beyond transnational areas. And with this in mind, for example, the Med area already cover 4 out of the 5 areas. So you need to be really paying attention to this. We thought it would be interesting to share with you the results and the lesson learned that we came to with the first and the second calls that we had in 2022 and 2023, so that you have an idea of what was achieved. Here you can see the 2 calls in numbers, and we can see that they were successful. Each time we had more than 100 of a project proposal, lots of organization from partner states all over Europe. And as you can see, we already committed lots of euros for those 2 a successful call. That's why this one might be the last one for this programming period. And here you can see that for the first call, we had 134 project proposal. The eligibility rate was really high with a 74%. And then the half of them were recommended. And for the second call, it was almost the same picture. So we can say that the recommended rate was higher than during the previous programming period, saying that we have good project proposal, and we hope to have the same picture for the last and third call. On this slide, you can see on the image that the concentration principle that we were mentioning before, so the majority of the budget going to a more greener Europe, smarter Europe, and some social issues are respected during the 2 first call. And for the third call, all topics are open, but we have that concentration principle. Also, to take into consideration is that when we receive project proposal, they go into a 2-step process of selection. First, we have the eligibility and then the qualitative assessment of the proposal. And we would like to highlight some lessons learned from the first 2 calls so that you take them into consideration while applying for the third call, so that you have a successful proposal. Need to pay attention to having at least one investment for growth and job. An investment for growth and jobs goal program within the policy instrument addressed. To be careful with the partners that you are involving and the one that are policy responsible authority. You need to make sure that if a partner from another country is saying we are the policy responsible authority, that you ensure this. And if you have any doubt, you contact the partner state to ensure having the policy responsible authority on board, because we want to improve policies, and without them, it cannot be done. And also to not wait for the last minute to prepare everything and the project proposal. Then concerning the qualitative assessment, you really need to pay attention to your partnership. So as said, a broad geographical coverage. Also, we need to have a mix of more and less advanced region. And also we need to see the policy relevance of partners. So we have the policy responsible authority, and sometimes we have other partners coming with them, and they need to demonstrate their policy relevance. So how they are able to influence the policy instrument. And then regarding the quality of the results, the innovative character is something that you really need to pay attention to. And more particularly, if you are coming with a subject that were already tackled, maybe with another angle, but to demonstrate what is the added value of your project and how your project is going beyond the results of past initiatives. And also pay attention when you are mentioning the policy improvement expected within your project. We noticed from past experience that successful applications share various common points, so we strongly recommend you to read the program manual and also the terms of reference for the third call, documents that are available on the websites. We also offer assistant tools, and this I'm gonna dive more into with my next presentation, so I'm just going to go over it and also get to know the process for selecting a project proposal. Everything is transparent. Everything is mentioned in the program manual, so you have all the information there. Just get familiar with it and be sure to meet all the eligibility and quality criteria to have a successful proposal. Thank you very much. I'm going to pass back the floor to Onya, I believe.
That's great. Diane, thank you very much for that very comprehensive overview of the third call for Interreg Europe project proposals. Some really practical and useful advice there, so thank you very much. And just to reiterate, if anyone has any questions for Diane, specifically on call 3, please don't be afraid. Please do use the Q&A function that you'll see there at the top of your screen to ask the questions, and we can pose them then in the dedicated Q&A section. I will just say one of our speakers is having an issue with accessing, so they're going to be accessing in as an attendee. So for them to be able to speak, I actually am going to have to turn everyone's cameras and mics to change the settings of the cameras and mics. But I would just ask that attendees just keep their cameras and mics off, even if you do see an option to be able to turn it on, if that's okay. So we are now going to move to our applicant support section, and I'm delighted to welcome my colleague, Travis O'Doherty, who is an EU Programmes Liaison Officer with the Northern and Western Regional Assembly and also a national contact point. Travis is going to give us an overview of support available to applicants from an Irish point of contact perspective. And then Diane is going to return to give us an overview from the Joint Secretariat perspective. So I'll hand over to you now, Travis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anya. I just share my screen now. So hopefully you can see that. So as Anya said, I do the EU Programmes Liaison Officer in the Northern and Western Regional Assembly. So this presentation, I'm just going to give a fairly brief overview of the role of regional assemblies in as the point of contact and some other functions that the regional assemblies provide as well. So as we mentioned earlier, the point of contact is shared between the two regional assemblies, the Northern Western Regional Assembly and the Southern Assembly. But between the various regional assemblies, we have the contact point for quite a few Interreg programmes. So in the Northern Western, we've the Interreg Atlantic Area and the Northern Periphery and Arctic, and the Southern Assembly have the Interreg Northwest Europe, and the Eastern Midland Regional Assembly have the contact point for the URBACT and Urban Innovation Initiative programme. So between the three assemblies, we have a lot of EU experience. So not only do we have Interreg experience, but we are responsible the two regional operational programmes that the regional assemblies manage as well. And we have a function in terms of planning with the regional assemblies produce regional economic and spatial strategies that was mentioned earlier. So that's the main sort of function of the regional assemblies. We've the current structure of regional assemblies in place since 2015 with the three regional assemblies, but regional assemblies date back to 1999. So we have 25 years of experience in EU funding. And on the right in the slide here, we have the various kind of programme bodies involved in Interreg Europe, and of course the national contact points provided by the regional assemblies in Ireland, but the regional assemblies are also involved in the monitoring committee. So we sit in the monitoring committee, which is the central decision-making body for the programme, and national government are also on the monitoring committee. So we're heavily involved in different structures of the programme. So just give you an overview of our role. So what we do, one of the things we do in order to promote the programme and try and get as much interest as possible is we both assemblies have EU funding networks. So for the Northern Western, we've about 250 subscribers to our EU funding network. We produce events like this and newsletters to keep people updated of when calls are happening, any publications or interesting initiatives that are being trialed. So for example, Interreg Europe is managed by the Joint Secretariat based in Lille, but the points of contact really help to distribute the information to beneficiaries in Ireland. So it's about making the information easily accessible to Irish beneficiaries. So this network has been going now for about 3 years. We've had great success, and there's a link here to subscribe, and these slides will be shared. So please do subscribe to our newsletter to keep updated on the latest developments in terms of calls and different events that are going on in the programme. And the Southern Assembly have the ETC, or European Territorial Cooperation Network, and they have about 300 contacts in their network. So it's a very big program. They run lots of webinars, both online and in-person events, and it's very much driven by the stakeholders. So they often get high-profile speakers at these events, or speakers from the Joint Secretariats or other speakers, and it's very much driven from the feedback of the members. So a very useful service, and we've had great attendance at the events that have been organised so far. And there's a link there. You can join the Southern Assembly's ETC network and sign up to their newsletters that are quite frequent, and get involved. So we'd encourage everyone, whether you've experience or not, to get involved in these networks. They're very, very useful. So another function, a separate function, it's important to say it's a totally separate function to the point of contact that the assemblies provide, is the controller, or the first level controller that it's often called. And this is, so the point of contact will help, particularly in the early stage of developing a project and finding partners and eligibility. But when a project is up and running and the reporting is certified by the controllers, so the Northern Western Regional Assembly provide the first level control for partners, Interreg Europe partners in their region, in their geographical area, and the Southern Assembly for their geographical area as well. So both assemblies have a what's called a first level control function. So essentially it's about ensuring the costs are accounted for, they're eligible, and they fit with the programme, so reporting on the costs. So typically progress reports are submitted by project partners on a 6-monthly basis, and it's all done through the online portal. So it's quite a technical role, and involves a deep understanding of different national and EU regulations to ensure the expenditure is eligible and is reported correctly. So it's a very important function, and they'll often carry out on-the-spot checks as well, particularly if there's a pilot action involved in a project. And so the lead partner, so each project partner will do their progress report and get that approved by their first level controller, and then the lead partner will collate all those reports and submit them to the project, to the Joint Secretariat. And so it's a very important function that the regional assemblies provide as well. So we're heavily involved in that as well. So I suppose just to kind of go to look at Irish projects and Irish involvement. So the best place to find out about existing projects is the Interreg Europe website, and you can filter and search all the approved projects. You can filter by programme. You can search for projects in the current, the 21 to 27 programme, or you can look at projects in the 14 to 20 programme on the Interreg Europe website. So there's about 150 projects in the current programme up there, and about 27 of them have Irish partners, and you can filter by topics or themes. And it's worth looking, if you're developing a project proposal, it's worth looking at other projects in your area to see, what they've done and how a potential new project could build upon previous projects. And it's also useful, if you click into any of those projects, you will be able to see the policy instruments so that they are addressing. So you'll be able to look at which policy instruments have been addressed through those projects. You'll be able to see who the partners are, even provide their contact details. You'll be able to get lists of good practices, for example, and any news or events. So there's a huge amount of information available on each project on the Interreg Europe website. So it's well worth a look. And if you look at, say, the policy instruments that have been used in past projects, it gives you a good feel. So many, say for example, local authorities will use a city or county development plan as their policy, maybe a local area plan, a local economic community plan, even like a tourism strategy, or as a digital action plan, or a sustainable energy or climate action plan, have been used by local authorities. So it's very good to look at the plans that are being used by Irish beneficiaries to see what they've used and how the projects have influenced policy. So it's very useful to search the Interreg Europe website. So then in terms of resources, where to get information and further information, we also have the 3 region assemblies have there's an Irish Regions European Office, and they're 2 staff permanently in Brussels that support that they're tapped into different networks in Brussels, and they also support as an Irish delegation to the Committee of the Regions, so sort of high level political support. So the ireo.eu is their website, and it's worth taking a look at their website. There's other services. Access Europe is one service that can be useful. It's funded by the Department of Foreign Affairs, but it's a one-stop shop for EU funding, and it signposts different sources of funding. And it's mainly targeted at the civil sector, but it is useful for signposting different EU sources of funding. And it's if you want more detailed funding, you have to go to the contact points, but it's a good place to go for more general funding. And you can put up a profile of your organization, and they also have a newsletter as well that's useful for finding out about calls. And then the 2 other websites to mention, keep.eu is a database of projects, and you can go back to earlier programs, to the, say, 2007, 2013 program, to look at past projects on the keep.eu website is very useful. And interreg.eu is a good website for information on Interreg. And we produce some publications as well, the regional assemblies that are useful, and even our regional operational program might be, and the RSCS for the 2 regional assemblies would be useful. So that's really hopefully gives you an overview of the regional assemblies involvement in the so thank you, and a big huge thank you to Anya as well for her work behind the scenes in this webinar. So I want to extend a big thank you to Anya as well.
Thanks, Travis. You're very good. That was great. Thank you. And now we'll just move over to Diane to get the perspective from the Joint Secretariat. So thank you very much.
I'm muted. I was talking, but I was muted. Thank you, Travis, and thank you, Anya. So yes, you have the assistant from your national point of contact in Ireland, but you also have the assistance that the program offers. Indeed, we want to help projects develop their ideas, and the program provides various services for future applicants. And if I may say so, it's in your best interest to use them if you are planning to participate in the 3rd and potentially last call of Interreg Europe for this programming period. So here you can see the different steps that you can go through to prepare your project proposal, and we will see them in details now. So first and foremost, you need to ask yourself if the Interreg Europe program is for you. Indeed, as already mentioned, it's a program that is dedicated to policymakers. So you need to make sure that you are involved in regional development policies. We also mentioned the exchange of experience to improve situation in your region. So are you looking for new solutions? Hopefully you are, and Interreg Europe is good for you then. And lastly, are you available and committed to participate in a project and exchange with other partners from all over Europe? So are you ready to work with partners from different countries in Europe and the 7 new countries? If all those boxes are checked, it is a positive sign that Interreg Europe is pertinent for you. Another thing that you can do, and would be the next step, is to self-assess the relevance of your project ID. And you can do this by using the self-assessment tool that is available on the Interreg Europe website. It is a straightforward list of 8 questions to answer, yes or no questions, really easy. And if you answer yes to all 8 questions, then you are on the right track for an Interreg Europe project. You can also get inspired by all the other initiatives and projects that are financed by the program. Indeed, while preparing your proposal, you can browse our website about running projects, to have an insight of their exchange of experience, the activities, how they are implementing it, and also mentioned by Travis, what are the policy instruments they are tackling. It really gives you an insight of different projects on different thematics, and what they are doing and what they achieved also. And we created a page on the website where potential project ideas can be shared, and this also can inspire you, your organization and your region. So you can explore project ideas by topic and countries. But just note that the program does not screen the ideas submitted by the community on that page, and nor it can guarantee their relevance to the program. Normally they are, but I just need to mention this as a disclaimer. And there are lots of great ideas there. So if you want to be inspired, go through that page and check what are the ideas already submitted. But also, if you feel like it and you have a relevant project ID, you can share it on the website to attract potential partners for your project proposal. And to be able to share your project ID on the website, you need to be a member of our community. So it's just a small registration on the website with your profile, and then you will need to fill an online form that is proposed on the website and submitted so that your project ID is shared on our website. You can also find a match partner-wise. You have the possibility to find partners from all over Europe. You can look by topics, by country, by organization type, and find hopefully a suitable partners for your proposal. And you also have organization from the 7 new countries that were added to the program. And one of the super relevant and helpful tool that we offer, but is often overlooked, is the ask for feedback that we propose. Once the call is open, you have the opportunity to get feedback from a policy officer, so myself or one of my colleagues, on your project proposal. It is sending an online form through the website, so you need to be a community member. So this small registration on the community, you submit your project ID, and then we checked the relevance and we point out maybe aspects that you need to pay attention to, or if there's something that should be dealt in a different way. And you can get the feedback in writing, or you can get an online call or a meeting with us. It is also mentioned on the slide that we can give you a feedback at events, but now until the end of the call, the 7th of June, we won't have any on-site events. So it will be in writing or on the phone. But if you have a good project proposal that is relevant to Interreg Europe, and you already have an idea of the partnership, clearly the project ID and policy instrument and activities, this is something that you shouldn't forget about and use in order to be better prepared for the call. Also, please remember to consult the program documents that are available on the website. You've got the program manual with all the information that you need to know. It's really something that you should read if you are interested in participating in the third call. Also, the terms of reference of the third call that are available on the website that are going to give you all the instructions to apply and what you need to take into consideration. And also we have the application form and the declaration template. Also, all the presentation will be shared with you afterwards, so don't worry, you will have all this information. And the program also organized various events to help applicants. Last week, we hosted live session about project development. So there were a session on building a successful partnership, another one on designing project methodology, one on management, budget and finances, and then the last one was on project communication. All sessions were recorded, so if you're interested to watch them, they are available on our website. And we also organize a Q&A session online, and these are super interesting if you are developing a project proposal or an idea and you have a question you would like to ask us. It is a live session where a finance officer, a policy officer are present and answer the question of applicants. The next one is tomorrow. You can still register for it. And then we have another one on the 17th of May and then on the 31st of May. We've got additional resources that you can check. The launch of the third call that took place in Antwerp, Belgium this year on the 20th of March. So you have the video on the YouTube channel. We also have a FAQ section on the website to help you, and you can always contact us. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Anya, for preparing the whole webinar, and also to Travis, Dennis, and David. We hope the presentation helped you understand the rationale of the program, the feature of the third call, and the services offered by the program. To help applicants, you can always contact the national point of contact as mentioned, and also the Joint Secretariat. We are here to help you, and we want to see a successful project proposal. So don't be shy and contact us. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Diane, and thank you to yourself and Anna and your colleagues in the Joint Secretariat as well. We really appreciate having you here with us today. So bear with me one moment now while I just get my next slide up. So thank you very much, as I said, Diane, for that, and to Travis as well, for that really good overview of supports available from a point of contact perspective, and also from the Joint Secretariat as well. I'm delighted now to welcome Jose Manuel and Ronan Gingles and David Kelly again to the virtual stage. For this portion of today's webinar, we're going to have a break from presentations, as you've had a lot of information over the last hour, and moderated by David Kelly, Director and Point of Contact for Interreg Europe, the Director of the Southern Regional Assembly. For the next 15 minutes, Jose and Ronan are going to discuss their experiences of working on Interreg Europe projects. Just as an introduction, Jose Manuel has extensive experience leading and managing EU cooperation projects and assisting partner regions, including Donegal County Council, in their digital and green transitions. He has been involved in the preparation of several successful Interreg Europe proposals in the previous and present programming periods. And alongside we have Ronan. So unfortunately, Ronan won't be able to have his camera on, but I think is your mic turned on there, Ronan? Can you hear us?
I hope so.
Perfect. Yeah, and we can hear you. That's great. So Ronan Gingles manages Cork City Council's overall engagement in EU affairs, identifying, developing and supporting strategic opportunities to work in depth with and learn from elsewhere to contribute towards delivering on the Council's objectives for Cork's sustainable growth as a city of scale. This portfolio of activity includes 15 ongoing projects and initiatives in a frontline partner role, plus participation in 3 of the EU missions and several thematic networks at European level. So I think we can agree between Jose and Ronan, we have a wealth of knowledge there. So I'm going to hand over moderating responsibility to you now, David, for the next 15 minutes. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks very much, Anya. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Look, it's been great to hear all of the details of the call, the tools that are available and so on. But I think sometimes it's really great to hear from project partners who've been involved over the years, just to get their take, their advice, their little, I suppose, nuggets of knowledge on the best way to move forward. So look, I'm going to jump straight in, and maybe I might ask both of you this very same question, really, just that, you know, you've both been involved in a number of projects down through the years, some may be more successful than others, but you might just maybe briefly outline where you see the overall benefits in being involved in Interreg Europe projects generally. And, you know, you can refer to a couple of the projects that you've been involved in, and maybe some of the benefits or improvements that have come from that. So maybe I might start with Jose. You're in front of me there, I can see you. So I'll start with you, and then kick the same question to Ronan.
Okay, thank you, David. Yeah, values for us to participate in Interreg Europe projects. Of course, you have access to a very wide range of knowledge, and at the end of the day, most of the regions we are facing similar challenges. But I think it's very constructive to see what the others are doing, how they are doing it, and trying to bring it back here to, in our case, normally either to Donegal or to the Northwest region in Ireland, you know, in the case of ERNAC. So very quickly, an example is in a project that we were working, it's called Erudite. We were at that time very interested in implementing new digital innovation hubs. We had the opportunity to learn, for example, from Slovenia and from France, two very specific experiences that led us to put an application here in the Irish government. And at the end, what we have got is a very nice digital innovation hub in Inishowen Peninsula in Bunkrana. So it's a very real example of the value we got, because we included several pieces or components from all these learnings from Slovenia. So again, very interesting to know from others, and also to share what we have, because we have a lot of things to share also here in the northwest part of Ireland, and of course in other parts of Ireland. So very beneficial.
Yeah, thanks, Jose. Yeah, same question to you, Ronan.
Morning. I suppose this boils. You can answer this in generality terms, but that's probably been well dealt with earlier in this morning. But I think it fundamentally boils down to, in impact terms, to the stakeholders and the policy. So bringing a sense of communality, common purpose, and coherence to the local stakeholder group, whatever the thematic might be, and then working on bringing some sort of sense of improvement to your policy documents. So I can expand on that by reference to one project I was involved in particular, if you want, David, just to say how
quickly, walk away.
Yeah, I suppose project I'm thinking of, it was called Create, and it dealt with the cultural and creative sector, CCIs as they're called, but more specifically how to engage them in tourism opportunities, how to develop that as a sort of market. So it was very, to be honest, it was very niche as a theme, and a bit woolly, and it struggled as a result. But I mean, in the heel of the hunt, ultimately, we brought together multipliers groups and devised what amounted to a sort of a cluster of clustering approach through workshops and a capacity building support program on branding and marketing to try and develop a sense of communality among them, whereby we wouldn't erode their independence, but would point them in the same direction, where they could develop something that was more than the sum of their individual parts, never mind the sum of their individual membership, which are, you know, one man, one woman operations makers and creators. And so ultimately what we developed was a support program, and then a brand identity allied to that, and then furthering that out in a longer term to impact on policy in terms of the place of creatives and the creative sector within the economic lifeblood of the city and its long-term development. So all of this, it's complicated to kind of to explain, but it all pointed in the right direction together as a win-win kind of operation for the city at large and for individuals within it.
Yeah, and I think it kind of gives a sense of the process. You touched on one or two things there that I think there are interesting and I suppose important in Interreg Europe projects, and that's the wider engagement of stakeholders. And I might just put this question to you, Ronan, that you're still live there on. I suppose how do you go about engaging your stakeholders? What methods do you use to make sure that you bring them on board? Because even with working with your partners, you need others involved to get that impact on the ground. So how do you go about that?
Yeah, I think stakeholders need to be kind of front and central to the consideration in a project like this in particular, or similarly with an URBACT project. And there might well have been a tendency to see them as something of an afterthought at the outset, almost as people who'd be rolled in and rolled out of meetings, almost as a box tick. So to be honest, there's an element of what not to do about this, but we kind of struggled because the topic was so niche. We struggled to kind of define it and to make it hit home. It was a bit diffuse as a rollout, and I think we in-housed it for a little bit too long, trying to understand how economic is this, how tourism is this, how cultural and artistic is this. We needed to go out there earlier to the market, to the creative sector, and trying to ask people, what do you want to make of this project? Because it was something of a blank canvas, and we went through a bit too many iterations before we eventually got it right. To be honest with you, when COVID struck, it couldn't have hit a sector harder than tourism, because A, people had bigger things to worry about, including the people who were working on the project, and B, the opportunities that the project would bring for exchange were shut down. So we were put online in terms of our interaction with partners. That kind of was a frustration, because it took a lot from the project for our stakeholders, and it took a while to bring them on board. Ultimately, it was post-COVID before we were able to really get them back fully on board. But ironically, we were able to tap into a couple of post-pandemic lenses. The need for the city centre to be a more vibrant, more attractive place to attract people back into what wouldn't be a ghost town, and the need to diversify what's a very precarious kind of economic sector in the first place. But as a result, we got those multipliers on board. We got 4 local arts, design and craft groups around the table. We understood their motivations. We hothoused them, basically, David, to use the project and a bit of inspiration from other partners as an opportunity to address some of the shared gaps. And what emerged was an appetite for something that would align them collectively as a sector across the city and enhance their profile in its economic development.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So sometimes it's the challenges or the things that go wrong where you get the most learnings from as well, or definitely some of the learnings. Jose, maybe over to you, just in terms of I suppose when you're beginning to get involved in a project, maybe for the first time, and it can look very daunting and so on. And we've heard about a lot of the tools that are available. And just wondering from your perspective, which ones did you use from the get-go and find useful as you were developing your project, definitely in the early stages, I would say?
Yes, David. So you mean when you are already in the project or in the application phase?
No, at the application stage. So if we think of, say, maybe people who are just joining us today for the first time, thinking of getting involved in Call 3, which of the tools did you use when you were developing your projects, and how did you use them?
Yeah, for us, one of the supports that we use more, I think is the most practical one, is share your idea with the Secretariat in the Interreg Europe and get the feedback. We have used this not only in this programming period, but also in the previous one, and it's very useful because you can see if you are in the right direction or if you need some things that you have to fine tuning, or even if your idea is completely, you can have a brilliant idea, can work really well for you, but maybe it's what the Interreg Europe program is not looking for. So it's an investment, actually. For us, it's an investment. Also, of course, the program manual. Sometimes, I mean, read the program manual. It's very clear. It's a long document, but it's very useful. And at the end, even if you see that there are a lot of pages, saves a lot of time. So I strongly recommend also, if you are in the application phase, do this. And the third one, I think is very important to see how you can, I mean, select very well your policy instrument and see how you can influence it in a realistic way. I mean, don't overpromise things, but try to be practical, try to be clear, and try to see or to explain what you can achieve. So these are for me the three main tips for partners looking to be involved in the in applications for, in this case, for this call number 3.
Yeah, I think that policy instrument, I think, is critically important. And you might just maybe say a word or two just about, I suppose, the importance of the right partners and the policy responsible authority being involved as a partner, or at least as an associate partner, because without that, you know, the project kind of falls.
Yeah, I think it's very important again in the application phase. Of course, for example, there are a lot of times where the policy authorities, I mean, they don't have the capacity to be in a lot of in all the projects. For example, you know, one of the mandates is that you must have an investment for growth program, regional operational program, and it's of course impossible for the managing authority of each of the countries or the regions to be involved in that. But at least when you are preparing your application, discuss, even if, of course, ideally they should be the partner, but if they can't be the partner, you have to discuss pretty well with them what is the project about, what needs to be improved, and also to see what is required from them, and at the same time what you can bring to them and the value that you can bring to them. So very important that if you are addressing that policy instrument, work well with the responsible. Otherwise, also try to involve or try to present policy instruments where there is a clear role or a clear way of influencing or improving that. Ideally bringing the partners, but if what I want to say is that don't think that just you have to bring a letter of support from the policy instrument responsible if you are not involving them as a partner. It's not enough. I mean, it's discussed with them, because otherwise, okay, maybe you get the project approved, but then you are going to have problems during the project, because you have to work with them as a regional stakeholder, and you have to demonstrate that you are making an impact in that policy instrument. So don't take this as just a letter of support and that's all, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, no, I agree with that. And look, I suppose that's an area where I would say it is important to kind of reach out to the point of contact as well, in terms of the policy instrument and the policy responsible authority. Diane, I see you want to jump in there just before we move on. Yeah, go on, sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something additional to what Jose Manuel just said. The associated policy authority doesn't have to, in the new programming period, to sign a letter of support. It's really like they are fully involved in the project, in the sense that they need to participate in the exchange of experience. For sure, they are not partners, full partners, but we are checking in the reports what they are doing each time and how they are involved, how they are supporting the partner involved in the project for the policy instrument, because without them, there won't be any changes. So we are checking this, and they should be on board, because without this, we don't have the results that we would like to achieve. So just pay attention to this.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. Yeah, no, I think that was kind of the point that was been made, that it's important that they're involved, even as an associate partner, but they are actually involved in the process. Maybe back to you, Ronan, maybe just what you might see as maybe the biggest lesson you've learned from participating, either through the delivery of the project or the process or the engagement. What would you point to as one of your biggest lessons that you've learned through participation in an Interreg Europe project?
I think the most important thing to line up in advance is kind of envisaging what that policy change is going to look like, because it's one of these things that it seems quite vague, be it influence or improvement. I mean, and we actually found ourselves attached to a national level policy, which was fine at the time of application, but was then reviewed and had totally veered away from where this project needed to go. So we had to retrofit things and bring it in house, and that was complicated in finding the right mix. But ultimately, we concocted a series of different policies relating to our cultural and creative strategy, our arts strategy, but beyond that also the city centre revitalisation action plan and even the city development plan to try and point this in the right direction. And it's about seeing the long-term outcomes and impacts, because the project's only 4 years. We're looking at towards the end of the decade before what this is lined up is going to bear fruit, which is to create a city centre creativity hub, which the sector is crying out for. And now, because of the project, they've had a sense of profile and amplification and confidence to lobby for this. And they've worked it into the key policy documents within the city to achieve that. So it's really just stepping back from it a bit and trying to see what this is all going to be about, not being vague. And then look, there's lots more tips and pointers I could offer in terms of trying to be reasonably precise, budgeting in the right directions, not shortchanging yourself by, for example, by leaving expertise out of your budget. But fundamentally, it comes down to a case of bidding with the expectation of success. And success is not, being green lighted with the project or receiving the funding. Success is doing what you've said on paper, putting that and laying that out over the subsequent years and beyond.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think an important point I picked up what you're saying is it needs to kind of be aligning with what you're trying to do anyways, rather than shoehorn into it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, look, I'm conscious of time, so look, I might just throw one final question at Bodhi, same question. If you're to give one tip or maybe 2 tips for a new organisation, be it a local authority or other, that coming into this for the first time, what would it be? Jose.
I would say first, start as a partner, not as a lead partner. I've been lead partner in several proposals and projects, and it's really good. But yeah, and again, use all the support from Interreg Europe, but also the national contact points. We are very lucky in Ireland with the contact points that we have, so they are very useful. So I would say that these 2 things maybe.
Okay, thanks, Jose. And over to you, Ronan, as well. 2 quick one or two quick pointers.
Without throwing too much of a dampener on things, I would say look before you leap, just to determine where this all fits, as we were just saying, but also how you're going to resource it, practically speaking, and inquire satisfactorily so that everybody around the table locally, including the stakeholders outside your own organisation, so that they understand the fundamentals of what this is about, that there's no vagueness, that everyone is sort of singing from the same hymn sheet and understands, particularly in relation to this programme, what the jargon of policy instruments, good practice, regional action plans all amount to, and what commitments you're going to sign up to.
Yeah, no, I think very, very useful advice. Look, I think we could probably go on here for another hour, but look, I know we have time scheduled, so thanks, guys. Thanks, Jose. Thanks, Ronan. Back to you, Owen.
That's great. Thank you very much, David. And yeah, definitely great to get some perspective from real life examples in Ireland of Interreg Europe projects in action, and some really, really practical tips there. So we are now going to move to the Q&A portion. So when we do have a few questions in, which is great. So I'm going to invite Diane and her colleague, Anna Sladik, who is the finance officer, along with David and Travis as well, if you may be available to have your camera on, to join us for the Q&A portion. So what I'll do is I'll just read out the questions, and thanks for all those who use the Q&A function. And I think between us, we'll be able to find somebody to answer. So the first question we have is from Fiona. So this came in during your presentation, Diane. So it was, could you give some detail on discovery partners as is called out in the Interreg submission portal project form, please? There isn't detail on this type of partner in the program document. Thank you. So maybe just reiterate again around the area of discovery partners.
Yes, well, thank you, Fiona, for your question. So discovery partners were created for the organization from the 7 new countries that were added to the program to help them because they might not be familiar with the Interreg and Interreg Europe program and its activities. So it's a lighter way of participation for them. Where they don't have to tackle a policy instrument, and it's more coming to the exchange of experience between the different partners and see how it is done, the study visit, the identification and exchange of good practices. And of course, that organization needs to be eligible and also need to be relevant to the project in questions. You are mentioning that you didn't find any detail of that type of partners in the program document. Maybe you don't have the last version, because if you go to page 60, you will find the explanation of what a discovery partner is. But also I would like to mention that partners from the 7 new countries can be also a normal full partner and having a policy instrument. So it really depends on the situation of each organization from the 7 new countries and what can be done with them and including them in the program and in the project. I hope I reply to your questions.
Yes, and I will say the program manual has been, and I see just a comment coming in there, that program manual has been shared in the chat. So if you just scroll up through the chat, you'll be able to find the latest document there that Diane referenced. So the next question is from Sharon. It is there a requirement for proposed projects to cover multiple policy instruments? If proposing a green project, do you have to show how this would relate back to jobs and growth? Maybe Diane, do you want to come in on that one again?
Yes, well, thank you, Sharon, for your question. So what we want is that in a project, you have different policy instruments, and one of them should be an investment for job growth and job goal program. What we mean by that is that you will have different policy instruments depending on the region and the country. Sometimes it's at local, regional, or even national level. And it must be one that is an investment for job and growth goal. And for example, if you are tackling a green a topic, for example, I don't know, active mobility, well, in an operational program, you will find the specific objective that is tackling this part, and you can include that one. I hope it replies to your question. Because normally in operational program, for example, you have specific objectives, and you will find one that is dedicated to that specific aspect, hopefully in one of your partner.
Perfect. I think, did you want to come in there, David?
Yeah, no, maybe, yeah, thanks, Diane and Anya. Maybe just to, I suppose, restate or reiterate that for each partner, they should only need to focus on one policy instrument. So they pick the one that's relevant for them, and then the other partners will focus on others, one of which may be an investment for jobs and growth, will have to be, but yours doesn't necessarily have to be. So it's about identifying the policy instrument that's more relevant for you and for your organization.
Perfect. This one is from Angela. So regarding the two-step assessment procedure, eligibility and quality assessment, does it mean that there are two different deadlines, i.e. first eligibility and then, if successful, quality assessment? Diane, do you want to come in there?
Yes, thank you, Angela, for your question. So no, there is one deadline, and mark your calendar. It's the 7th of June, midday Paris time. I just wanted to mention during the presentation that how the proposals are selected. So you have first the eligibility that we conduct after the 7th of June, of course, when we received all the applications. We pass the eligibility assessment, and if your project is eligible, then it goes to the quality assessment that we do, and then afterwards, if it is recommended, there is the final decision at the end of 2024 by the monitoring committee. But for you as an applicant, you just need to have one date in mind. It's the 7th of June midday, and everything has to be submitted by that day. But obviously, don't wait for the last minute to do and prepare everything.
Yes, definitely agree with that, with not leaving it to the last minute, even with some of these portals, just from a technical point of view as well, you know, that you're not leaving it last minute for anything like any kind of small thing like that, which could hold up your application. Okay. Sorry, Diane, I'm going to you for a lot of them, but this one is kind of relating to your presentation as well. So I was just a bit confused. So from Anonymous, I was just a bit confused about the point made about the citizen topic. Is it a multi-sectorial approach to a territorial approach? Not, it doesn't tackle the citizen directly. Can you elaborate, please? So is it more so, yeah, kind of a territorial approach than actually working directly with citizens, I think might be the question there.
Yeah, well, thank you for your question. I'm sorry it was confusing for you. So when we mentioned the closer to citizen topic, it's really about focusing on integrated territorial strategies in regions and in different levels. And it's not supporting citizen initiative per se. So we support integrated territorial development, culture and natural heritage, sustainable tourism and security, but everything needs to be tackled within the integrated territorial strategies that are developed. I hope it's more explanatory that way. If not, you can also check the cohesion policy document or the program manual, where you can see what has to be tackled within that topic.
Perfect. Thanks, Diane. The next one was one that I pulled from the chat. So it was, could a decarbonising zone, as per the local authorities' climate action plans, apply for funding under this call? So I presume that's the development plans for decarbonising zones that have to be developed through the climate action plans. I suppose, I know, David, did you want to come in? But I suppose it would depend on how they are being used. You know, if you were using the climate action, yes, the climate action plan could definitely be used. The local authorities are a policy owner on it, and you would just have to see, do you know, whether that's a change in governance, whether it's how you're going to basically influence it through the project. But I think the answer, we probably would need a bit more detail on how you're thinking of using it, but I think the answer would be yes on that. David, I don't know, or Diane, if you want to come in on that.
I'd agree with what you said, Anya. Yeah. I think the answer is yes. There is obviously the opportunity to do it there. You'd have to obviously link in with other partners across Europe. As you said, Anya, you have to identify exactly what you're trying to change, what you're trying to improve. Is it the implementation of the climate action plan with regard to decarbonisation? So a little bit more detail would be necessary, but I think in broad terms, I think the topic is relevant. The topic fits, so it's just about identifying and specifying in more detail actually what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And maybe even to have a look at as Diane mentioned, those project ideas that are up, and see, are there any project ideas there? You know, if you're not thinking of going in at lead partner, is there something there that might be able to fit in? So yeah, so you can contact us afterwards if we can be any support through the point of contact or through Interreg, through the Joint Secretariat as well. Okay, I'm a little bit conscious of time, so I'm just going to, there's one last question here. So it's, if a non-profit, and if there is any others, we'll as I said, we'll send out a document afterwards and answer them. But if a non-profit organisation had an idea for an Interreg project, is the first port of call contacting their local regional authority or sharing the idea on the online portal for feedback? I don't know who wants to come in on that one.
I might maybe jump in first. I think, yes, I think it does make sense to contact the local or regional authority. I would also think it makes sense to look at the portal generally, just to see, is there something there, project ideas that you could link in with straight away. you know, where you wouldn't have to necessarily be the lead partner, but you could join a project idea that's already out there. So it's probably, I would say, a bit of both in a sense. That'd be my view on it. I don't know if Diane or Travis have any other thoughts on it.
I guess it depends on the nature of the project, what you're looking at. Could also be a government department could have a certain policy that you want to influence. But yeah, depending on the nature of the project, definitely a good place to start would be local regional authorities.
Definitely. Anyone else? No? Okay, I just see someone there has just asked about the program manual again. So I'm just going to, while I have it here, I'm just going to pop that into the chat so you, or into the Q&A. So I've replied to you there with the program manual, so everyone will be able to access the most updated version of that program manual. But look, thank you so much. And thank you, Anna, as well. There wasn't too many financial questions, but I would really appreciate having you here in that instance. And we'll know who to point people in the direction to if we do receive any questions. So look, we're coming to the end of the information session now, and I hope you found it of benefit and inspiration. And thank you so much for all our contributors, to our colleagues from the Joint Secretariat, to Ronan and to Jose. Really appreciated. And I'm now going to invite Dennis Kelly, who is the Director of the Northern and Western Regional Assembly and also acts as point of contact for Interreg Europe, to provide us with some closing comments. So I'll hand it over to you now, Dennis.
Okay, Anya, thank you very much, and thank you to everybody who's been attending this webinar. I think there's been a great attendance today, probably over around 60, I seen at one stage. I really do hope that you have found the webinar to be informative and of assistance. I would like to extend a huge thank you to Diane Boulon and Anna Sladek from the Interreg Europe Programme. You've been providing us with great inspiration and guidance. And Diane, I think today you've given us an excellent and a comprehensive, very comprehensive overview of the Interreg Europe programme. So that is very welcome. Secondly, I would like to thank Anya and David Kelly from the Southern Regional Assembly for all the work they've undertaken in the organisation of this webinar. I think it's obvious to you all. And to thank Travis O'Doherty from our Northern Western Regional Assembly also. And today we've had inspiration from successful Interreg Europe projects in both Donegal and Cork, so both as far north as you can nearly go and as far south as you can go on the island. And I would like to thank you, Jose, Manuel and Ronan, for giving us your invaluable knowledge and leadership and advocacy that you have provided for this programme. You will have heard how the programme has supported, and it continues to support, a high number of projects across a huge number of regions across Europe. And the ultimate aim of the programme is to share solutions and really to deliver better policies across the region for us. It creates a fantastic policy learning environment to share solutions and good practices. And it also gives people the opportunity to meet others of a similar mind. And the Interreg Europe is a gate opener. Once you enter in the spirit of cooperation, you really will find that it opens up a lot of opportunities. The regional assemblies have been managing EU funds now for a quarter of a century, 4.7 billion in total, and this has provided us with a level of expertise and knowledge and understanding of the complex funding models in the regional assemblies, and I think it's second to none. We have in Ireland been really successful in drawing down the Interreg funding, and we want to maintain and increase this. And I, as the Director of the Northern Western Regional Assembly, and David, as Director of the Southern Regional Assembly, have a shared aim, and that is to ensure that the policy learning is maximised and spread across all of the government sectors, whether it's national, regional or local. And we need to try and maximise the drawdown, but really get good projects together so that we can maximise the policy learning for Ireland. This is the third Interreg Europe call for projects. And as you'll have heard, it's open till the 7th of June. It's midday. Don't leave it to the last minute, but it is midday on the 7th of June. And for those of you applying to this call, I really do wish you every success. I would also encourage you to sign up to either the Northern Western Regional Assembly or the Southern Regional Assemblies networks, because that does give you access to updates on future calls and events and news, which I think is particularly beneficial when you're in this space. So to wrap up the webinar, I'd like to thank you again, Anya, for making this a seamless webinar. I would like to thank all of our speakers for your participation and the preparation that has gone into this webinar. And most importantly, I would like to thank you all for joining us, and I hope that the webinar does help you to navigate the application process. Gur míle maith agus slán go fáil.